Niger has just made a move that is sending shockwaves across the global oil industry and diplomatic circles alike. In a bold, calculated decision, Niger has ordered dozens of Chinese oil workers to leave the country. This isn't just about visas or personnel turnover. This is about sovereignty, economic justice, and a nation finally standing up to reclaim control over its most precious resources. At the heart of this dramatic development is the China National Petroleum Corporation, CNPC, a key player in Niger's oil sector, and the Soraz refinery, a joint venture through which China has maintained significant influence. For years, Chinese investment was seen as a lifeline for resource-strapped nations like Niger. But what happens when the so-called partnership begins to resemble dependency, or worse, exploitation? Niger's recent action suggests that the country has had enough. Documents recently obtained by Reuters reveal that Niger's oil minister, Sahabi Umaru, has instructed both CNPC and Soraz to terminate contracts of expatriates who have been working in the country for more than 4 years. That may sound procedural, but in context, it is a seismic shift. It reflects a growing wave of African nations asserting control over their natural wealth and resisting foreign dominance, a theme that resonates deeply with a continent eager to redefine its future. This action follows a familiar pattern we've seen in Burkina Faso, Mali, and even Guinea. The post-coup governments are rethinking their relationships with old and new powers. For Niger, which is now under military leadership following the July 2023 coup, the move to expel long-serving Chinese workers is not just administrative. It's political, ideological, and economic. Before we continue, welcome to our channel where we bring the African vision to life and make African stories go global. Help us in pushing the message forward as we continue to inspire, educate, and empower. Subscribe now, like, and share our videos, and don't forget to hit that notification bell for our next videos. Now let's continue. Let's examine the context. Like many African countries rich in resources but constrained by underdevelopment, Niger has long depended on foreign investment to extract and process its oil. In comes China, with the funding, manpower, and political muscle to get things done. For Beijing, Niger is part of a larger Belt and Road Initiative strategy, offering China access to critical energy supplies in exchange for infrastructure and technology. But what happens when the deal feels one-sided? When the bulk of the profits leave the country, when local workers are underpaid, and when national laws and interests are brushed aside in favor of external agendas? That's precisely what Niger is now pushing back against. According to the documents, Minister Umaru accused CNPC of non-compliance with local regulations. And notably, he even declined a private meeting with the company's CEO. This isn't the first sign of trouble. Back in March, Niger expelled 3 Chinese oil executives over a dispute regarding salary disparities between local staff and their foreign counterparts. The gap wasn't just economic, it was symbolic of a broader imbalance. The narrative was clear. While Nigerian workers toiled for modest wages, Chinese officials lived in comfort and privilege. So when the government issued its latest letters in May 2025, it wasn't just cleaning house. It was sending a message to China and to the world. Niger is no longer willing to accept a junior role in its own economy. That's a message that resonates across Africa, where generations of natural wealth have been siphoned off through exploitative contracts and cozy relationships with foreign powers. What makes this move even more significant is that it doesn't represent an outright expulsion of all Chinese workers. Umaru's letter to Soraz included a line of pragmatism, stating that there would be flexibility on a case-by-case basis. This isn't blind nationalism, it's strategic sovereignty. It's about putting Nigerian interests first, while still recognizing that partnerships, when fair, are welcome. And that's the crux of the issue. African nations are not saying no to foreign investment. They're saying yes to respect, to equity, and to transparency. They want the oil wells, the mines, and the factories to benefit the people, not just shareholders in faraway capitals. Some observers argue that this stance could endanger future investments. But the opposite could also be true. A country that insists on fairness and self-respect is a country that will ultimately attract partners who value long-term stability over short-term profit. Niger is betting on a new kind of relationship, one based on mutual benefit rather than quiet submission. There's also the geopolitical angle to consider. China has long claimed that its presence in Africa is guided by principles of non-interference and mutual development. But when executives are expelled, meetings refused, and contracts terminated, one must ask, has China lived up to that promise? A spokesperson for China's foreign ministry responded to the news by saying that China has always adhered to the principles of truth, friendship, sincerity, and the correct view of righteousness and benefit in its dealings with Africa. That statement, however, now rings hollow to many Africans watching this unfold. After years of rhetoric about win-win partnerships, real economic justice is what people are demanding. This development is not isolated. It's part of a broader wave of African nations taking the reins of their destiny. The Sahel region, once treated as a pawn in global power games, is rising with a new consciousness. Leaders like Ibrahim Traoré in Burkina Faso, Assimi Goïta in Mali, and General Abdourahmane Tiani in Niger are forming the backbone of this resistance. They are not just rejecting neocolonial control, they're building alternative models of cooperation, often looking to Russia, Turkey, and each other. These moves carry risks, of course. Turning away from traditional powers can trigger sanctions, aid suspensions, and media blackouts. But they also carry potential. By asserting control over their natural resources, building indigenous capacity, and renegotiating partnerships on their own terms, countries like Niger are laying the groundwork for sustainable, homegrown development. This oil worker expulsion story is therefore more than a labor issue. It's a sovereignty issue. It raises critical questions. Should foreign companies be allowed to operate without full compliance with national laws? How long can a country watch its wealth enrich outsiders while its people struggle with poverty? And most importantly, what kind of partnerships does Africa truly deserve? Let us know what you think in the comments. Do you believe Niger made the right move? Should other African countries follow suit? And how should China respond if it genuinely wants a healthy future relationship with Africa? This story also highlights the need for African nations to build local expertise. Replacing expatriate workers with locals isn't just patriotic, it's practical. It builds a skilled labor force, keeps money within the economy, and reduces dependency. It also gives local populations a stake in national industries, increasing accountability and national pride. This strategic assertion of economic independence is the next frontier for Africa. Whether it's oil in Niger, gold in Mali, uranium in Burkina Faso, or cobalt in the DRC, the message is the same. Africa must benefit from Africa's wealth. And that will only happen when leadership prioritizes local interests over foreign appeasement. In the end, the world is watching Niger's bold decision with keen interest. Some see it as a dangerous path that could isolate the country. Others see it as the beginning of a new era in African geopolitics. We see it as a moment of awakening, a sign that African nations are no longer willing to be passive players in their own stories. If you believe in an Africa that rises on its own terms, if you support this movement for self-reliance, dignity, and progress, then be part of the change. Like this video, share it far and wide, and let the world know that a new Africa is here. And of course, make sure to subscribe to the channel, where we bring the African vision to life and make African stories go global. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update on the transformation happening across our great continent.